Hey guys, in this lesson number 3, we're going to check out hierarchy and how that controls the composition in your design. Okay, so first of all, what is hierarchy? So I'm going to start with this concept of when everything is important, then nothing is important, okay? So hierarchy is kind of like dominance. So it's like, what is the most important thing in your design? And how can you make that very, very clear to the viewer that that is the most important thing? So we got a little monkey here and the poor little dog. Obviously, this is the most threatening thing between these two. So your design needs to have the same concept to it, that you need to have a hierarchy of first, second, third, fourth, and last most important things. So here's an example of bad hierarchy maybe. You can see that everything on this particular slide is fighting itself to be the most important. So these pictures, this word, this background image, this map, they're all just competing with each other with your eyes. So you're very confused when you're trying to read this and nothing really stands out. You're kind of left disorientated by this particular hierarchy. So what's an example of good hierarchy? So here we can see a design that's more laid out with good hierarchy, where these monkeys might be the first most important thing that draws your eye to the design, right? So they stand out, they're taking a large part of the page, it's a visual, you're drawn to the subject matter. Then what's the second most important thing? Probably this heading right here. So that's probably the second most important thing. And then what's the third most important things? Probably these subheadings, right? So that one, and then this one. And then lastly, as you become more intrigued and drawn in by this design, then you're probably going to read this information here. Okay, so we got a clear order of what's the first most important and the least important in this design. And now, to do good hierarchy, you gotta kind of think of this concept of dominance. Now, in the Western world, the word dominance has a bad meaning connotation to it, right? So we typically think of this word and we think of this image, right? Someone just being mean to someone else, someone being unfair. But this isn't always a bad word, especially in design. You need to use dominance in your design. Something in your design has to stand out from all the rest. So what controls that dominance or hierarchy? Well, the first thing is size, right? So remember from that slide that I showed you is that these gorillas are taking up a big chunk of the real estate on this page, right? So just from size alone, they are dominating or have the primary hierarchy on this page. The second thing is color, right? So here we have the use of blue. We have the use of orange. This blue and orange are going to draw your eye first. And then lastly, this black is going to decrease the hierarchy of these words. So this is what your eyes are going to notice last. The third thing is contrast. So if you increase contrast, you increase the hierarchy of items. So first of all, with the typefaces, we have a very bold, chunky font here. So that's going to increase the hierarchy of this title. And then we got a medium font. And then we got a light, thin font here. So this is going to be, again, the least, it's going to be the lowest on the hierarchy ladder. And the next thing is alignment. What does alignment mean? It means where do you put things? So here we have the heading in the top left-hand corner. That's where we typically expect the heading to be. So this location right here has a higher prominence than this location down here. Does that make sense? So if I put that heading down here, it would decrease its hierarchy because it would be less, it's in a less prominent position. The next thing that you can do to increase hierarchy is repetition. So remember from that slide, I have these two categories and they use the same style, that orange with the bars going across from them. So from that repeated element, they stand out more from the other elements on the page. The next thing is white space. So white space is everything but the words, colors, design elements, and stuff like that. So here, white space, we got spacing from the gorillas from the edge of the screen. We got spacing from the gorillas between the letters. So the more white space you add between elements, it's going to give this thing more prominence because it's taking up more space on the page, right? So it's going to dominate more of the space. So this part is going to increase its hierarchy and make it more prominent. As opposed to, say, this element here, where the white space is a lot smaller between these things, right? So these things have lower hierarchy and prominence on the page. All right, and the last one is texture and style. So if you make a design element have a unique style, it's gonna obviously increase its hierarchy. So you see here that we have the blue background with the white font, which is unique for that particular presentation slide, so it's gonna stand out more. So give an element maybe some texture and style to make it stand out more in a particular design. All right, guys, that's it for the hierarchy section, and I will see you in the next lesson.